Well, Aaron, welcome to Drunk Comics.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Would you like to tell me a little about yourself?
Sure. So, my name is Aaron. I'm a 40-something lifelong comic fan, superhero enthusiast. I am heavily involved with the Heroes Alliance, which is a cosplay charity group, um, which you are also a part of. And I love superheroes. I've loved them since I can remember. I still spend more than I should every week on comic books. Even if I just got rid of like
Struggle's
30 long
real.
boxes. Yeah, I just got rid of like 30 long boxes to make room for my son. Um, um, so yeah.
And you have a son on
And
the way.
I have a son on the way. I have two daughters who are 13 and almost 16. And I'm also a part of a online streaming group called the Untold Stories project that does role-playing games streaming on Twitch and YouTube. So,
Which I can link down there.
okay.
Which will make more sense. Yeah, but no, I will link to that. So how did you get into superheroes and comics?
So a million years ago, because I'm old, friends of my parents owned a comic book shop on the campus of the Ohio State University. It was a little hole-in-the-wall comic shop called Monkey's Retreat, and my dad would take me over there so that he could visit with his friends. And as like a little 1-2-year-old kid, one of the owners would read me Incredible Hulk comic books. And this guy, Rosie, Rosie was a nickname. He was a big dude, like one of those like 6 feet tall and almost that wide. So he would read me Incredible Hulk comic books, and then he would chase me around the store going, "Hulk smash, puny human,"
Oh,
which was
that's so
terrifying.
cute.
Right. It was terrifying, but it was also incredible for a 3-year-old. Um, so I think I was hooked from that
Oh,
moment.
that's so cute. When my son was, I think, 3 or 4, he started doing Hulk smash on the floor, and it was the cutest thing.
It is. It's so cute.
So that's great. So,
So.
what comic are you going to talk about today?
So I am here to talk about the Thunderbolts from Marvel. Specifically, the original 12-issue arc when they first came out back in 1996, 97, somewhere around there. Because it was such an incredible mixture of weird things that happened at that point in history in comics that could never happen again. Um,
Which is delightful.
so here they are. Yay.
Oh, I was hoping you
Um,
had an issue. Oh, yeah.
so like I said, it was a remarkable mixture of events that could never happen today because internet and spoilers. But
People
also
are
because, yeah, but also because the way gimmicks worked in comics in the 90s, they don't really work that way anymore.
so
Um,
sad.
and it took a certain gimmick being in place for the Thunderbolts to work. So okay, so the way the Thunderbolts worked, the way they were introduced was Marvel had the bright idea that they were going to bring back a bunch of the Image Comics creators, and they were going to kill the Avengers and the Fantastic Four and It was mainly the Avengers and Fantastic Four. But they were going to kill them at the end of the Onslaught event, and then put them in their own little pocket universe and let a bunch of the image creators come back to Marvel and do whatever they wanted to do with them. But what that meant was that in the main Marvel 616 universe, they were a world where the only superheroes that were left was Spider-Man, who nobody trusted, and the X-Men, who nobody trusted. So in the middle of this, right. So in the middle of this, the Hulk is rampaging, because that's what the Hulk does. And out of nowhere, this new superhero team shows up called the Thunderbolts. And they're like a classic mix of superhero teams, because you've got Citizen V, who is the legacy hero from World War II, no superpowers, but highly trained acrobat type. So basically Captain America.
Yep.
You've got Techno, who is their inventor. You've got Mach 3, who was their armored battlesuit guy. You've got Atlas, who is their growth dude, their big growing guy. And then you've got Meteorite, who is this flying woman with energy beams. And Songbird, who has like these wings and can make constructs out of hard light. So, it's a very classic superhero team. And like I said, they just came right the fuck out of nowhere. They show up in the pages of The Incredible Hulk to stop the Hulk in the middle of one of his rampages. And everyone's like, who the fuck are these guys? And the only hint about them was when they're talking, the Hulk looks at Meteorite and he says, "You sound familiar." Which does come back because we eventually realize that the Hulk and Meteorite have history. So after that, they then show up in like a Spider-Man team-up comic, and then 3 months later, Wizard Comics magazines talking about, okay, next month you're going to be able to buy Thunderbolts #1, and I'm like, I am here for that. So I go out and I get it, and I read it, and I'm like, yeah, this is a really cool little team. They've got some cool little interpersonal dynamics. And okay, so their inventor is kind of this arrogant ass, and their grower, their giant, he has his insecurities, and there's kind of a romantic tension between him and Songbird. That's kind of cool. Oh, and now that they're here, without, again, a world without the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, and the city of New York says, hey, why don't you set up in the Baxter Building, because that's a good place for a superhero team to be. And I'm like, this is cool. This is a neat little book.
Open the door for them.
Right. And then we get to the last page of the first issue. And Citizen V walks in, talking to them while they're all having their interpersonal talks, and his mask is off, and this is the first time we've seen him with his mask off, and his face is just horribly deformed and mutilated. And everyone's like, ew. And he's like, oh, you'd rather I put on a mask? Fine, but I'm going to put on a different mask. And he puts on his mask, and he's Baron fucking Zemo. And it blew people's minds. I mean, just no one saw it.
And there was like no internet forums for people to fucking spoil it.
Right, exactly. And like the only advanced news you could get about comics at that time was reading Wizard magazine, and they were pretty good about, no, here's the Thunderbolts, it'll be cool. Yeah, long.
I miss Wizard so much. R.I.P.
Yes.
Cheers to that. I know your glass is empty, but cheers.
My glass is empty, but so yeah, I mean, so it turns out that, when he comes out and he puts the other mask on, and you realize that, yeah, Citizen V is Baron Zemo, and Atlas is actually Goliath, and Meteorite is Moonstone, who was an old villain of the Hulks, which is why. Yep. And Mach 1 was the Beetle, and Techno was the Fixer, and Screaming Mimi, or Songbird was Screaming Mimi. And like I said, it was just like, whoa, No one saw that. Okay, so that's a great first issue. So where do you go from there?
Right.
And they did it really well, because what's happening is this was all Zemo's plan. Zemo's plan was, with the Avengers gone, he would get into the Baxter building, he would get all of the secrets from the Fantastic Four and the Avengers, and then he would be poised to rule the world. So he's working to do that. But meanwhile, the rest of the team are kind of going, wait a second, people like us. And like,
The hero.
right, and like all the crap we used to get trying to rob and steal, they're now giving it to us, and all we have to do is be decent people.
Oh, sure.
Right, I mean, there's a lesson there, but and then like 4 issues in, they end up adding a new member to the team, a teenage girl named Jolt. And she's legitimately just this teenage girl who got superpowers and doesn't know that any of them are villains and thinks that the rest of them actually are heroes. So they have this weird level of having to convince Jolt that everything is on the up and up while they're still working for Zemo's plan. But then they're all going, but do we really want to do this? But then, as all good gimmicks must, the Avengers and the Fantastic Four come back to the 616 universe.
Because of course you can't kill off all your fucking cash cows.
Well, no, exactly. And they weren't killed off because they were in their Heroes Reborn universe, and those books were selling well enough, but you were only going to get the Image guys to come back and work on them for so long. And really, no one wanted Rob Liefeld actually drawing Captain America regularly anyways.
Oh my God. That's a whole other thing. That's gotta be a whole drunk comics issue episode. I should not call them issues. I keep accidentally go on.
So the Avengers and the Fantastic Four come back to the real world, and the tension is really divided among the teams. But when the Avengers and the Fantastic Four come back, their reaction to these guys are, hey, good on you, you've been keeping the world safe while we're gone, we like you, because they don't realize that they're the masters of evil. And then Baron Zemo basically says, okay, well, we need to go ahead and go forward with the final step of our plan, and we're going to use my MacGuffin to control the minds of everyone and take over the world. And by the way, I'm going to tell the whole world that you guys actually are villains, so you have no choice but to support me as I do this.
Nice. Because I'm evil.
Because I'm evil. Which really pissed me off, because I loved like his Citizen V persona. I loved the concept of the character. That was actually one of the first superhero costumes I ever did, was Citizen V. There are no pictures remaining of it, so I can't show you.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I did that years ago. But so Zemo, being evil, he enacts his master plan and he takes over the world. And that's when the team actively turns on him and kick his ass. They kick his butt, and they're like, most of them are like, dude, we didn't need to win. We already had everything we wanted. Why did you ruin it?
It's good to be a superhero, man.
Right?
Good to be a superhero.
But yeah, like I said, it's like, it was such a neat idea, and it only worked because they had done the Onslaught thing and the Heroes Reborn thing, so all of the major superheroes were gone. And again, it also only worked because it was still the 90s, and we didn't have internet forums, and we didn't have people who were going to read the advanced copies on Tuesday night and then blab it everywhere on Facebook on Wednesday morning.
Right.
So you found out about it because you had bought the comic, or because one of your friends read the comic and then put it in your hand and said, "Dude, read this." So, um,
The true golden age of comics.
it
The
was.
90s.
I mean, I don't know. There was a
I
lot
mean,
of
yeah,
terrible.
really.
There was a lot of terrible things in the comics in the '90s. But that was one of the things
Rob
that worked.
Liefeld.
Well, Rob Liefeld, yes.
Pouches.
Um, well,
Or however you would say
so
it.
we talked about the
Pouches.
fact.
Pouches.
Yes. So we talked about the fact that we have both been to the Metropolis Superman celebration. The time I went, one of the costumes I wore to the Metropolis Superman celebration was Superman's electric blue costume. Um,
Oh, a soft spot for that. Not saying it was good, but
well, yes, and people would look at me while I wore that costume, and they'd be like, "I can tell it's supposed to be Superman, but I have no idea what this is." And my response was always, "There were a lot of terrible decisions made in the '90s, and this was one of them." I don't know if there's a way to wrap up. I mean, the Thunderbolts continued after that 12-issue arc. I mean, they continued for a long ass time. There was like 70 some issues. There was a time where after they broke up with Baron Zemo, Hawkeye took over as their team leader. I mean, it was a consistently fun and good comic all the way through the early aughts. But that first 12 issues, it's such a cool little microcosm of the '90s, and like I said, it's something that will never happen again. But
so fun. Ugh, that sounds good. Well,
we
thank
should.
you for being on the show.
Oh, thank you.
So you're definitely gonna
I
have to come back.
okay. I will come back.
I twisted your arm. Again, cheers, even though you have an empty glass.
Yeah,
I'm sorry I
sorry. I
keep bringing that
drank my
up.
whiskey too quickly. Cheers.
No, you probably got a head start on me. I got a late start. So